And this week we're in Tallahassee, the Florida State Seminoles, and the voice of the Noles, Jeff Culhane, joins us now. And Jeff, it's great to see you. Are you guys feeling the football fever like we are getting ready for week one?
Roger, it's great to talk to you, and we are excited around here. You know, coming off of a tough season a year ago and stadium renovation, there is a lot of enthusiasm in the air, and it goes without saying, no matter what happened the season prior, Florida State fans get ready to roll for every single year, and this one is special with Alabama coming to town. Not a whole lot separates Tallahassee and Tuscaloosa. Just the sixth time these two teams will go head to head on the gridiron, and I think everybody is looking forward for toe to meet leather at 3:30 Eastern time on Saturday afternoon. So let's fire this thing out, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, we're certainly excited for it. And you mentioned a tough season last season. You go back to the year before that, a great season, of course, ACC champions. And we don't have to get into the playoff debate right now, but just and what can be a roller coaster. Great season, tough season, and now you get ready for this year. How have you seen Mike Norvell stay consistent?
Yeah, it was challenging, and he has been one of the most consistent individuals I've ever been around in college football. I mean, his energy, his enthusiasm, his love for his players is just palpable every single day. And sometimes when you get around guys like that, you wonder does he really, is he always that locked in? Is he always that tuned up? Does he mean oh yeah, he does. I mean, he is. He's almost a robot, but he's not robotic, if that makes sense. I mean, he is so consistent on a daily basis with his approach, with his expectations, that it's really impressive. And that's why last year was so stunning. Coming off of the end of 22 and starting 13-0 in 2023, winning 19 games in a row, you really felt like this program had gotten over the hump. Some tough times, obviously, where Jimbo left for Texas A&M. Willie Taggart came in and things were not good, and Mike had to clean that up. And it took a little while, especially when you take over during the middle of COVID. So it felt like we had turned the corner, and man, we just got smacked in the face with that a year ago. And I think it was, a snowball of a perfect storm of things from a just a negative perspective that all came together at one time, and the snowball got started early in the season, rolling downhill, and we couldn't stop it. And so his consistency overall has remained the same from a day-to-day standpoint. Obviously, changes have been made, and this roster has been turned over quite a bit with 49 newcomers, but his energy, his excitement, his expectation continues at a high level on a day-to-day basis.
So he remains the same as the head coach, Florida State, but now we have new coordinators. Somebody Alabama knows very well, and Gus Malzahn taking over the offensive coordinator, and then Tony White coming in from Nebraska to take over the defense. What can you tell us about those two individuals and how they're starting to change Florida State this year?
Yeah, obviously, Roger, the news that Gus Malzahn was leaving UCF as a head coach to be the play caller here at Florida State, it was surprising. Makes sense from a perspective of he and Mike Norvell's relationship. Gus Malzahn gave Mike his first full-time assistant coaching job at Tulsa on his offensive staff back in 2007, where he, Gus, and Herb Hand coached together with a high-flying, high-powered Tulsa offense nearly 20 years ago, and now they're all back together here in Tallahassee at Florida State. And so it was obviously met with some enthusiasm, and I think the excitement here is from a perspective of, look, everyone knows that Gus Malzahn, as an offensive mind, is elite, and it's what he's known for. And so now that he can just focus on that and get away from the business of being a head coach, there's some enthusiasm around these parts for what he could potentially put together from a game plan perspective in trying to get his personnel in position to have success. On the other side, Tony White is one of the bright, young, quote unquote, defensive minds in college football right now. He's a disciple of Rocky Long. They ran that 3-3-5 defense. He played for Rocky Long at UCLA in the early 2000s, and he's taken that defense. He's put his own tweaks into it, and he's had success at Syracuse, excellent success at Nebraska the last 2 years, and now he's brought that to Florida State. And he has been, his expectations as well have been sky high, and he's been unapologetic about it. And it has, I think, from a player perspective, it's been a change of pace for what he's been asking them to do, and it's needed coming off of 2024. And so, the coordinator changes, the coaching changes, I think were all needed. And it really feels like before we played a game, Mike Norvell has done a great job. We'll find out more, obviously, on game day.
Sticking with the defensive side of the ball, who are some of the key playmakers our fans need to know about before Saturday?
Well, your fans know about Earl Little Jr., and he's a guy that has settled into that rover position in Tony White's defense. And you look at the 3-3-5, and some of the best players have played that rover spot. I go back to way back in the day where a guy by the name of Brian Urlacher played the rover position at New Mexico before he was a great player for the Chicago Bears in that style of defense. And so obviously Earl Little is not that size of player, but it takes a unique talent. It takes a unique star from a standpoint of this era of college football to be able to cover in space and also be physical and come up and help and support the run. And so Earl Little has kind of sort of found his footing in this defense at that rover spot. Another name that will be interesting to watch against the Alabama offensive line, who I feel like is an elite one, obviously, and your fans know that. But Daryl Jackson Jr. at 6'6", 335 pounds, a guy that's been at Maryland, Miami, and now is in his third year here at Florida State. He's got first round capability at the next level. Now, can the light switch stay turned on every play and on every down? And he has the makings physically of being one of the great defensive linemen along the interior in all of college football. And so those are a couple of names. James Williams came to Florida State with Tony White and Terrence Knighton from Nebraska. He's an edge rusher to keep an eye on that will try to get to Ty Simpson and get him on his heels a little bit, pin his ears back and get after him. And Elijah Herring, who was at Tennessee and last year at Memphis, has really emerged as a thumper in the middle of this defense at the linebacker spot. So those are a few of the names to keep an eye on, but certainly a matchup to watch is Florida State secondary against Alabama's elite wide receivers, who could be considered the best group in all of college football.
Of course, on the offensive side of the ball, a name we know very well, Roydell Williams at running back for the Seminoles. And then our fans, Jeff, also know the name of your starting quarterback, Tommy Castellanos, for some of his media appearances over the summer. But what can you tell us about this Florida State offense and the personality, I guess, we'll continue to see on that side of the ball?
Roger, you guys heard about that, huh? Back in
Yeah,
June?
that made the rounds here. Yes. Thank you for
Yeah.
the content in June and July. Yes.
Yes, the timing of that was perfect for national media and college football, and maybe made folks cringe a little bit who wore garnet and gold. But quite honestly, I thought when Tommy came to ACC kickoff and explained himself a little bit further, I thought he clarified things better. Certainly, it was very direct in what he said. I'm not taking anything away from those statements, but he's a guy that's really embraced the role of being the quarterback at Florida State University, and at every big football program, big brand, the quarterback is going to get a lot of eyes and a lot of ears. And this is a guy that his path has been one that has had certainly some twists and turns to it. It hasn't been a straight line. And he grew up, was born in Miami, played at Ware County in South Georgia, always wanted to be a Seminole. Grew up a Seminole fan. In fact, his cousin is former Florida State running back great Devontae Freeman, who won a national title here in 2013. And so he's always wanted to wear the garnet and gold. Started with Gus at UCF, went to Boston College, had success there in the ACC, and now has made his way. He's got one season, he's got one shot to be the quarterback, and he's really embraced it, Roger. And he's confident. His teammates are there supporting him. And he's really uplifted this group who is looking for confidence and needing a shot in the arm after a tough 2024. And I think that's how he clarified some of the things that he said, even though they were very direct, obviously, and how he stated them back in June. But a lot of eyes will be on Castellanos. Roydell Williams hopefully is able to stay healthy. Our coaching staff here very excited about his capability. Won an SEC championship with Bama back a couple of years ago, and Nick Saban's final year in 2023. So there's some pieces there. The wide receiving core is one of interest with a lot of new faces. Deuce Robinson from USC, Squirrel White from Tennessee, who had a great career there for the Vols, and a young man from Cocoa, Florida, named Javen Boggs, a true freshman who was Mr. Football in the state of Florida in 2023, beating out Jeremiah Smith, who obviously is a big name around the world of college football. That's a young man that people are excited about watching. And then up front, it's a completely retooled offensive line. You've got four newcomers and honestly five with Richie Leonard, a Florida transfer who only played in four total games a year ago. So there's a lot of new faces for this Florida State football team all coming together at once against a Bama defense that certainly is talented, physical, and will be ready to play when toe meets leather Saturday afternoon.
Speaking of toe meeting leather, how about the specialist? What's the comfort level for FSU's coaches with some of the guys we'll see in some of the key kicking spots?
You bet. Yeah. I mean, lose two great ones at Florida State. In fact, they were the highlights a year ago. That's how tough it was. In Ryan Fitzgerald and Alex Mastromano, all American capable players. Mastro was an All American. Really, we thought he was going to win the Ray Guy Award a year ago. That's how good he was. And Ryan Fitzgerald was perfect, kicking at 13 of 13 in field goals last season and extra points, and had a 59-yard field goal over in Dublin against Georgia Tech, the second longest kick in program history. Kicked five 50-yard field goals a year ago. But it's Jake Weinberg, a redshirt freshman, who will be the place kicker. And he has got a huge leg, Roger. In scrimmages, he made a 62 and 58-yard field goal just a couple of weekends ago. He has had great success for a young player. We'll see what it's like when the lights are turned on brightest here this upcoming weekend. But he has got a big leg and has NFL caliber capability out of Pompano Beach. And then Max Cimento is the punter who has waited his turn behind Alex Mastromano. He'll get his first full-time opportunity as the punter in special teams here this upcoming season. And then in the return game, a name to keep an eye on is Jalen Lucas. He only played in two games a year ago, but was an All-American kick returner at Indiana and was tremendous there in KOR as a true freshman in 22 and a sophomore in 2023. So not a big body by any means, but he's short, he's fast, he's quick, and has had success in that category in previous seasons.
So that's everything happening on the field. Alabama against Florida State. Jeff, for fans who are making the trip to Tallahassee, maybe it's the first time they've ever been there, especially for a football game, any points around town or campus they need to check out? Any restaurants that are kind of a must do? What would you tell our fans about, especially if Tallahassee, this is their first trip there?
Yeah, well, certainly you got to get into College Town. That's kind of our main area, walking distance from Doak Campbell Stadium. Encourage you to go to Bowden's. Obviously, named after the namesake of the great Bobby Bowden. It is a Florida State football museum with great people there, great food, good drinks, and great service as well. And so Bowden's, put that on your list. That'll be pretty easy to remember, obviously, for everybody. Bowden's in College Town, a place to go for any Bama fans coming in to watch this one. But just take in the entire experience. Make your way over to Langford Green. Make your way to the Unconquered statue. That's an iconic monument right outside the south end zone of Doak Campbell Stadium. And certainly it's big for us this weekend with our $250 million renovation of the West Stadium, Roger, that is now complete. And so that is a huge deal around here, and it looks unbelievable. It looks tremendous. Michael Alford and his team have done an amazing job in providing a very unique game day experience, one that has been needed for quite some time here, quite honestly. And we're going to have that unveiled on Saturday afternoon.
Sounds like a blast. Well, we look forward to Alabama against Florida State on Saturday. Jeff, all the best to you and the Seminoles and your broadcast crew getting ready for the ball game. We look forward to catching up with you on game day, but just thank you for the time you've given us on the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Roger, great talking to you, and we look forward to a great football game on Saturday. Thanks for having me on.